The sun is shining, birds are singing. It's just another Tuesday, another day at the office, another day at school. People go about their routines, unaware of the impending doom. The news plays in the background, filled with the usual political dramas and celebrity gossip. No one knows that in a few moments the world as we know it will cease to exist. The seemingly ordinary day continues, with people lost in their thoughts and worries. A student nervously anticipates an exam. A young couple dreams of their future together. A mother prepares a meal for her children. The aroma of spices filling the kitchen. Life, in all its mundane beauty, unfolds. But high above the earth, satellites detect unusual activity. Military commanders stare at their screens, their faces grim. Frantic phone calls are made, but it's too late. The unthinkable has happened. Someone, somewhere, has launched a nuclear missile. The world holds its breath, unknowingly standing on the precipice of annihilation. The clock is ticking, and humanity's time is running out. A blinding flash, brighter than 1,000 suns, erupts in the sky. It happens in an instant, without warning, without mercy. The first cities targeted are vaporized before their inhabitants even realize what's happening. Buildings crumble, streets melt, and the very air itself ignites into a raging inferno. The unimaginable heat wave races across the land, incinerating everything in its path. Forests burst into flames, rivers boil, and the ground itself glows with an eerie radioactive light. The lucky ones die instantly, spared from the agonizing suffering that awaits the survivors. For those far enough from the initial blast, there is a moment of stunned silence, a terrifying pause before the storm. Then the shockwave arrives, a monstrous wall of pressure that pulverizes everything in its path. Buildings collapse like houses of cards, bridges twist and snap, and the earth itself heaves and groans. The world is plunged into chaos and darkness, the once familiar landscape now a nightmarish hellscape. The day the bombs fell, the day the world changed forever. The initial shock gives way to panic and confusion. Communication systems are down, cities are in ruins, and the sky is choked with smoke and ash. Survivors emerge from the rubble, their faces covered in dust, their eyes wide with terror. They are the lucky ones for now. In the hospitals, overwhelmed doctors and nurses struggle to cope with the influx of injured. Burn victims scream in agony, their skin peeling from their bones. The air is thick with the smell of blood and burning flesh. Resources are stretched thin, and hope begins to dwindle with each passing moment. Governments around the world attempt to establish order, but their efforts are hampered by the widespread destruction and chaos. Military units, cut off from command, struggle to make sense of the situation. The world is leaderless, adrift in a sea of fire and radiation. As the first hour after the detonation passes, the true scale of the catastrophe begins to dawn on the survivors. They are alone, facing an uncertain future in a world forever changed. The once vibrant metropolises, centers of commerce and culture, are now smoldering ruins. Skyscrapers lie crumpled on their sides, monuments to humanity's hubris. Fires rage unchecked, consuming everything in their path. The air is thick with smoke and the stench of death. Survivors emerge from the wreckage, their faces gaunt, their clothes torn and covered in ash. They scavenge for food, water and shelter, their eyes haunted by the horrors they have witnessed. The strong prey on the weak, and desperation pushes people to the brink of madness. In the shelters, fear and paranoia reign supreme. Supplies are dwindling and the threat of radiation poisoning looms large. People huddle together for warmth and comfort, clinging to the hope that someone somewhere will come to their rescue. But there is no rescue. The outside world is a wasteland, and the survivors are on their own. Section 5. The Fallout. Days turn into weeks, and the initial terror gives way to a grim determination to survive. But a new threat emerges from the ash's radioactive fallout. Invisible and insidious, it poisons the air, water and soil, turning the world into a silent killer. The lucky ones find refuge in underground bunkers, sealed off from the contaminated world above. They ration their supplies carefully, knowing that every crumb of food, every drop of water could be their last. They listen to the faint static on their radios, hoping for a sign of life, a message of hope. But for those caught outside, there is no escape. They cough and sputter, their bodies racked with radiation sickness. Their hair falls out, their skin becomes covered in sores, and their organs slowly shut down. Death, when it comes, is a mercy. The world is a vast, contaminated graveyard, a testament to the folly of man. Section 6. Nuclear Winter. As the months pass, a new horror unfolds. Nuclear winter. The massive amount of smoke and dust released into the atmosphere by the nuclear explosions blocks out the sun, plunging the Earth into a perpetual twilight. Temperatures plummet, crops fail, and the planet is gripped by a global famine. The survivors, already weakened by radiation and starvation, are ill-prepared for the bitter cold. They huddle together in their makeshift shelters, their bodies shivering uncontrollably. Many succumb to hypothermia, their frozen bodies adding to the growing number of dead. The natural world fares no better. Plants wither and die, animals starve, and entire ecosystems collapse. The Earth, once teeming with life, is now a barren wasteland, shrouded in darkness and silence. Nuclear winter is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of nuclear war, a warning from the future that we can ill afford to ignore. Section 7. Year 1 Survival. A year after the bombs fell, the world is a vastly different place. Gone are the familiar sights and sounds of civilization, replaced by a haunting silence broken only by the howling wind and the occasional desperate cry for help. The survivors, hardened by hardship and loss, have adapted to their new reality. They have formed small, isolated communities, scavenging for scraps of food and struggling to rebuild their lives amidst the ruins. They have learned to grow crops in the harsh, irradiated soil and to purify water using whatever means necessary. They have rediscovered the ancient arts of hunting and gathering, relying on their wits and skills to survive. Life is a constant struggle, a daily battle against hunger, thirst, and radiation, but even in the darkest of times, the human spirit endures. People find solace in companionship, in shared stories and memories of a world that once was. They cling to the hope that one day they might see the sun again. Section 8. 10 years later, a new world. A decade after the nuclear war, the first signs of recovery begin to emerge. The skies are slowly clearing, allowing rays of sunlight to pierce through the gloom. Plants and animals, more resilient than humans ever imagined, begin to reclaim the irradiated landscape. The surviving communities, scattered across the globe, have established tentative contact with one another. They trade information, resources, and most importantly, hope. They have learned from the mistakes of the past, vowing to build a new world based on cooperation, not conflict. New social structures emerge based on necessity and shared values. People work together to rebuild infrastructure, cultivate crops, and ensure the survival of their communities. The old divisions of nation, race, and religion have faded into insignificance, replaced by a shared sense of humanity and a common goal to create a better future for generations to come. Section 9. A century passes. 100 years after the nuclear war, the Earth is a very different planet. Nature, in its infinite wisdom, has healed the wounds inflicted by humanity's folly. Forests have regrown, rivers run clean, and the air is fresh and pure. The ruins of the old world, slowly crumbling into dust, serve as a stark reminder of the past. New civilizations have arisen, their inhabitants possessing only fragmented memories of the time before the bombs. They have built societies that prioritize sustainability, cooperation, and respect for the natural world. They have learned to harness the power of technology for good, using it to improve their lives without repeating the mistakes of their ancestors. The human race, though forever scarred by the experience of nuclear war, has emerged from the ashes stronger and wiser. The legacy of the past serves as a constant reminder of the importance of peace, diplomacy, and the preservation of our fragile planet. Section 10. The risk of nuclear war. The threat of nuclear war, though seemingly distant in the aftermath of such devastation, is a chilling reminder of the fragility of peace. History is replete with examples of human conflict, of nations and empires rising and falling, of ideologies clashing and wars erupting. The development and proliferation of nuclear weapons in the 20th century brought humanity to the brink of self-destruction. The Cold War, with its constant threat of mutually assured destruction, served as a stark reminder of the stakes involved. While the end of the Cold War brought a sense of relief and optimism, the risk of nuclear war has never truly disappeared. Regional conflicts, terrorism, and the potential for accidents or miscalculations continue to pose a threat to global security. The lessons of the past are clear. Nuclear war is not a viable option. It is a path that leads only to destruction and suffering. The only way to ensure the survival of our species is through diplomacy, cooperation, and a shared commitment to peace. We must never forget the horrors of nuclear war, for to forget is to risk repeating the mistakes of the past. The future of humanity depends on our ability to learn from history and to build a world where the threat of nuclear annihilation is but a distant memory.